Hi there, it's me, Camila Rose, and I hope you're having a wonderful, fantastic day. We are going to be going over the astrology for the month of February. Okay, so it's kind of a busy month, but kind of a chill month at the same time. So we have on February 5th, we have Mercury entering Aquarius. So this is going to be a lot of Aquarian energy going on. As you know, we've had Pluto enter Aquarius. It's sitting right there at that 0 mark. We have the Sun in Aquarius. Obviously, it's Aquarius season. We've just had a lot of things going on. And so with Mercury entering into Aquarius, we're going to see an uptick in communication, in ideas, in feeling like we want to really try to connect to and express kind of the highest version of ourselves and really figure out what that looks like for us. Maybe even doing some work in expressing this a little bit more, especially if you've been doing a lot of work with that Leo energy in order to really connect with like what it is that makes you who you are. We may see some things come up as far as just like maybe some technological things. And I know there was a whole thing on Twitter about like technology being connected to Aquarius, but seeing as how we are talking literally about Mercury, we will be seeing that come into play. But Mercury moves really quickly, so again, like these fast transits that are going on are things that like you may experience some hiccups with them, you may experience some insights or expansion with them, but it'll be fast moving. So if you have aspects to Aquarius, you know, you may experience some type of, you may experience something when Mercury moves into Aquarius. On February 6th, so that's February 5th, we have Mercury moving to Aquarius. On the 6th, the next day, we have Saturn quintile Uranus. And so this is just that Saturn in Pisces to Uranus in Taurus. And so they're kind of like pulling on each other. It's going to be maybe a little bit of a tense energy, but there is that space of just like Saturn in Pisces has really been kind of grounding Pisces energy. It's really been making it much more stable and much more like practical in order to like take the cosmos or the maybe like energetic cosmic womb and birthing out real things from it. Father time is kind of like, all right, I'm actually here, like what do you have to show me? And so we're seeing that combined with a Uranus in Taurus. And so just like that innovation or that looking at like what's going on with how we understand our values, how we are expressing our values, like where do we spend our money, our time, how do we engage our senses, like they're kind of pulling on each other. So you may experience this space where you're kind of grounding into like the reality of what is your fantasies, how do you bring those to life, how do they impact your values, are those things in alignment together? On the 9th, we have a new moon in Aquarius. Yay, we love a good new moon. New moon in Aquarius, I would really spend this time getting in touch with like the idea of Aquarian energy, especially if you don't spend a lot of time interacting with that energy. I will be very honest with you. I am not someone who does a lot of engagement with Aquarius energy. And so I would really take a look at like this concept of, you know, the higher self, the best self, your favorite self, of the angel who comes down and kind of transmits this information, who acts as this mediator between us and like the universe or us and God, like this being who has this view of things that's so much further and vast than what we as humans who are kind of restricted by our current present selves, even if we are someone who feels like we're in touch with past lives or the future and things like that, like we're still like embodied in this current moment, whereas angels are like ethereal beings who are not, you know, confined by that. And so they do have that flexibility. So like when you get in touch with this energy of Aquarius and of kind of this very like hopeful sense of the future, one of the things that might be really nice is to even sit down, and it reminds me of 7 of Cups energy, but to sit down and really think about like, can you imagine what a future would look like if you were able to take that time and energy and say, what is it that I would like to see come forth in the future for me? Like there's a lot going on where people maybe are not in the best space and they're not really aligning with or thinking about the best possible futures. You know, we're trying to be very realistic about the consequences of things that could be happening to us, particularly when it comes to things related to the environment or social climate and things like that. And I believe that that's really important. Like, that's Saturn's place, is to come in and make us be very practical and very like look at the reality of what's happening. And I think that that's a lot of that energy of what goes on with Capricorn. And when Pluto is in Capricorn, we also, like I was saying, we have Pluto in Aquarius now. But Aquarius is really inviting us to say, like, can we tap into the energy of courage and brave and being brave from Leo, of standing up for individuals who may need that support, of stepping up and being a leader when it's needed, that Leo energy. And can we use that to create and allow ourselves to imagine a future that we would want to leave behind as a legacy for others? So I would really invite you for this new moon in Aquarius to kind of really tap into that, to tap into your ability to see, like, if you were able to imagine what a future would look like, what would you want that to be? Who would you want to be there? How would you want society to function? Like, can you imagine it? Can you feel it? Can you touch it? You know, people are very into manifestation, but I'm like, you manifest, there's a real big focus on manifesting for ourselves, for the individual, and there's not as much of a focus on manifesting for the collective. And I think sometimes when we really like focus on that, like, I can see very much the polarity of that Leo Aquarius pool. But when we say, like, how is it that I'm able to individuate, you know, I've really said that it's important to focus on the individuation process of finding who we truly are through exploring our unconscious and being able to integrate that with our conscious self, the self, big S, with our unconscious, and how that really like plays out in the world, and how we're then able to take that and look at our community, look at the world around us, and know what it is that we're able to contribute to the whole, to everyone. What is our role to play? Can you imagine? Can you spend some time in meditation, whether that is walking or whether that is journaling or whether that is breath work of some type? Can you spend some time in meditation really embodying that energy or getting to know that aspect of yourself? And perhaps you need to tap into the energy of the Aquarian angel and say, like, I have a difficult time seeing what that looks like for me. Can I help? Can you help me? Can God help me? Can my guides help me? Can Spirit help me to understand what it is and who I am as this version of myself who is whole and complete, who is in touch with my conscious and my unconscious and have brought those things together, but also how I then am able to contribute and give back to the world around me. So I think that'd be a really great exercise for the new moon in Aquarius coming up on the 9th. On the 13th, we have Mars entering Aquarius. Mars in Aquarius is going to give us that oomph. It's going to give us that push. So if you've been feeling a little down and out about things, especially with all this like Saturn and Pisces going on, Pluto and Aquarius, there's a lot going on in Aquarius, which means there's a lot of like shifts and things going on, because we are very much looking at like what is it's kind of, I would say at this point, looking at the temperature, checking the temperature of what the collective energy is like. And right now there's just been a lot of needing to maybe balance some things out, specifically where individuals might not feel like there's justice has been happening. And that's really a pool kind of we have this polarity going on with Aquarius energy and Leo, Pluto entering into Aquarius. We have the nose in the Libra and in Aries, and so there's that pool there for justice and for change. Like there's a very large pattern. There's a story and a narrative playing out, trying to bring forth justice. And so one of those things is looking at like what's actually happening. Where do we see that wanting to go? Mars kind of comes in and adds this fire to it. It adds this feeling of needing to actively go out and create and to find and to be and to live our truth of who we are when we do this individuation process. Followed by on the 16th, we get Venus entering into Aquarius. So now we've got our two friends here with us. We've got Mars and Venus together, and they do this dance every 5 years. And Mars has a 5-year cycle, Venus has an 8-year cycle, and they do this dance together where they come together and they come apart and they, kind of orbit around each other, or not around each other, but around each other, around the sun, but crossing paths with each other. And so Venus is following after Mars and coming after Mars in this entering into Aquarian energy, and Venus adds a little bit of softness to the spice, but it's still, you have to know that, like, when we look at even the mythology of Venus, like, Venus isn't necessarily going to be sitting there, being like, oh, okay, everything's just sweet and everything's great. Venus can stir the pot as well. So it's really like Venus and Mars coming together and looking at desire and looking at will, looking at, Mars is will, Venus is desire, Venus is beauty, and Mars is the feeling of needing to create, of needing to grow, but not just that feeling, that need, it's the energy of actually like bursting through the ground, bursting out of that energy. So they're kind of like starting to enter into this Aquarian space, and it's giving us this invitation to really start to look at and embrace who we are. So I really anticipate that a lot of people will be experiencing this push, and you may be wondering where it's coming from, but this push to really say, like, what are my interests? What are my passions? What is it that gives me this drive? What am I willing to actually put my time and energy into? Because when we think back to that new moon in Aquarius, where you were imagining what that future looked like, there's one thing to imagine it, it's another thing to do it. And Mars looks at, what am I actually willing to do? What am I actually willing to act on? So you might have 7 of Cups, but you may only want to ever pick up a couple of them, 1 or 2, maybe 3. So Mars is actually saying, like, where is the action actually coming in? Venus is saying, what am I passionate about? What do I care about? What will take my time and my energy? What will I actually be able to devote to? What engages my senses? That's that energy of Venus through Taurus. What provides me balance and peace? That's that energy of Venus through Libra. And we're starting to really kind of see this play out in ourselves, but not just in ourselves. It will be reflective in what's going on in society. So take note if you start to see things really popping up about where people are feeling like collectively we start talking about what are the changes that actually need to be made. What are the things that we actually need to be doing? And if you find some things becoming repetitive, it's because those are the things, especially the ones that trigger or activate people the most, those are going to be the things that are part of the shadow, the unconscious that needs to be integrated, needs to be seen, and we need to spend a little bit more time on. So we get the sun entering Pisces on the 18th. So we get a little bit of that move now towards Pisces season, towards being a bit more dreamy, being a bit more in that creative flow of that water energy. So we move from this fixed air, which is, traditionally ruled by Saturn, and in the present or the modern ruled by Uranus, to this wonderful, traditionally ruled by Jupiter, and ruled in the modern form of astrology by Neptune. And so now we're kind of moving from this a little bit more cerebral, a little bit more focused on the logical, practical side of things, and like really getting in our heads, to being a bit more dreamy. We're in our heads, but we're in the unconscious. You could even kind of say that, like, Aquarius is the lightning bolt that comes down from the sky, and it strikes the primordial waters, and it hits the organisms in there, and it brings life into them. It's the shock of the electric system on the heart to get the heart pumping again, to get us alive and get us breathing, and then the blood flowing and us swimming up from our unconscious and becoming alive is us moving through the energy of Pisces. And if you want to look at it on a larger scale, you can think of it as the universe, and how, as the sun kind of started to form and all these other things up in space, we had the expanse of space, the darkness of space, and we had all the stars and other things, and you had all the matter that was kind of floating around, and how like as the worlds started to come together and that matter started to clump together, and the energy that it needed to actually start to like get the universe flowing. Like that's that dance between that air and that water and that ability to like move from an idea to a dream, you know? All right, so we have on February 19th, we have the true node or the North Node conjunct Chiron in Aries. All right, so North Node is kind of what we're working towards. It's really taking a look at the now. It's not living out old patterns. It's starting new patterns. It is saying what we need to be doing in order to alleviate, in order to solve, in order to soothe, in order to move past, in order to make a different choice than what we would have made in the past. It's fixed in Aries. Aries energy is always going to be saying, I am. So it's really looking at is doubling down on this individuation energy that is very active through Aquarius, and this I am energy that is active through Aries. And it is that really like Mars push of, I may have been in a space where I have compromised who I am before in order to keep the peace, in order to not rock the boat, in order to make it so that community could survive. But in turn, I was sacrificing myself, and I cannot do that any longer. I have to make some different choices now. And with Chiron and Aries, we may be seeing this kind of, especially with them being in conjunction, we may be seeing this very intense wounding around spaces where we had to, where we couldn't choose ourselves, where we had to sacrifice who we are, where we had to compromise who we are, where we were unable to like really be ourselves. And this push to say like, are you willing to do something different? Are you willing to choose different? Are you willing to be in a different space with that North Node in Aries conjunct Chiron? It's going to be like a very pivotal moment. I don't know how intense it might actually feel or how aware we might be of this energy, especially with, you know, North Node is just it's a mathematical position, and Chiron, you know, you may experience something that really brings to light wounding around having to not be able to choose yourself, having to sacrifice who you are, having to compromise who you are. You may not experience something around this. People who have that cardinal energy, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, may feel a lot more of this kind of push than others might, but it kind of just all depends. So you may see that, you may not feel that impact, right? On the 23rd, on the 22nd, which I don't have it written down, but I'm going to make mine, I think the next video is going to be on the new moon. So I'll be doing the new moon readings. But the video after that will actually be just focusing on the Venus-Mars conjunction in Aquarius. The Venus-Mars conjunction will be happening on the 22nd, I believe. I don't have it written down on my list. But this is going to be a really important moment. One, because this is really highlighting the impact or the effects of what we went through during the Venus retrograde back in August of 2023. One, because it's activating that polarity, and I've spoken several times about the importance of really taking a look at, like, in this moment, in that space, you must be the sun and you must center yourself. You must do the Leo thing. But Leos are not self-centered in a way of ignoring others. They just know who they are. Their self-esteem is heightened. They're very aware and in touch with their intuition, with their inner nature, with understanding their instincts and things like that. Like, they're just really very much just in tune, right? And so when we did that work and we went through kind of looking at our relationships and how that's working, and is it in alignment with our values? Is it in alignment with, is it something pleasing to us? Is it pleasing to the senses? Does it bring balance and joy into our lives? And in a lot of ways, it wasn't just romantic relationships or relationships among people. It's relationships with the world around us. Are you in the right place? Do you live in the right place? Do you work in the right place? Is your work centered on the right topics and subjects? Are you using your skills to the best of your ability? And if you got insights around something that was not in alignment, that needed to be released, you went back over this and you experienced this kind of rehashing with that retrograde energy, and it would just be bringing up these topics, these cycles, that 8 infinity energy that you experience here. The invitation was to release it. The invitation was to get it back into alignment. The invitation was to be like Venus as represented by Libra, which is the scales. And it was to say, if something is out of balance, you must get it back into balance. You must release this thing, or you must right it in some way. And so we've had a lot of instances and a lot of moments where it was like, we really got to get this together. You really got to get this together. And it's been kind of going on and on. Mars went into Scorpio, Mars and Venus in Scorpio, like all of these circumstances where we kept seeing this heightened energy between Mars and planets and Venus and planets and Mars and signs and Venus and signs. And the thing was that they were doing their dance because they were going to come into conjunction. And when they sit on top of each other, if we've still been holding on to those things, we're going to have this experience during those 3 days when Mars and Venus are in conjunction, where we're going to really feel that energy, that push, that inescapable experience of being so in touch with ourselves, being so aware of what actually pleases us, what brings us pleasure, what we feel in alignment with as far as our will, what we are actually doing. Look at what you're actually doing. Oftentimes, it is hard for us when we're going through the individuation process and the shadow work of integrating our unconscious to be able to really see what's going on there. Because especially if it's something that's very activating, which I use activating in place of triggering. So if it's something that's very activating, we may be so heightened, our nervous system may be so activated that we're unable to really be present in that moment. And when you're pushed into this space where like you're unable to kind of escape that energy, it can be really difficult to see what's going on because we're just so like flight or fight, freeze, fawn. We're going back to those systems and those practices, those behaviors that have kept us safe. But when you're sitting here and you're looking at this energy in relation to this individuation process, and you've been holding on to something that's been keeping you in this cycle where you haven't been centered, where your needs haven't been centered, where you've chosen other people, where your scales have been imbalanced. Mars and Venus come together and they sit here and they're just like unacceptable. It's going to feel very heightened, and it may feel like something that may feel like the brightest blessing you've ever experienced, or the largest eruption, war, and I don't mean like literal war, I mean like internal war that you've ever experienced. These things pulling and pushing, are they coming together in joyfulness, or have they butted heads because they're not complementary? They're sitting here and they're repelling each other because they're out of alignment. And the thing is that it's like you have to do this work. You have to find a way to calm your nervous system enough and activate your parasympathetic system enough where you're able to calm down and really say, what's happening here? What is it that I'm actually doing? What are my actual behaviors and actions? That's the Mars energy. What is it that you're willing to do? Coupled with, what is it that's happening? Am I getting pleasure out of this? Am I in a negative situation where I am not sitting here being my best self, where I am not truly living out the story that I should be living out, that I'm telling myself I should be living out? But I like it. I like this. And I keep doing it. There's something pleasurable. There's something that I'm getting out of the situation, and it's not in alignment. And the feeling, the pull, that polarity between that Leo energy, that Venus retrograde, all those things are kind of coming into culmination, and it's going to push you into the space where hopefully you'll be able to be in an environment where you can assess what it is that is working and what isn't working. Hopefully you'll be able to say, oh, let me go and fight for myself. Let me go and fight to love myself, to love who I am, to love what my purpose is, to love all the pieces of who I am. Let me protect that portion of myself. Let me love on it. Let me find pleasure in it. Let me fully move into this space where I find this magical combination of my will being in alignment with my heart. So that's kind of like the move of this Venus Mars conjunction in Aquarius, but I'm going to do an entire video about it. It'll be nice and long. We'll get all into it. So let's finish up the month. On February 23rd, we have Mercury entering into Pisces. So Mercury's kind of done its stint through Aquarius, and now it's going to be there with the dreamers. So you'll be maybe feeling more inclination to talk about some maybe more eclectic things, some more things that may not be, you know, as grounded as they have been, as you try to like maybe talk through what's going on in this individuation process. You may just want to do a little bit more where you're a bit quieter, you're a little bit more introspective, more meditations, more time spent in dream-like states. Your dreams may become more vivid. You may feel like writing more or being more creative, expressing what's going on within your unconscious, what's going on within your soul. You may want to express that a little bit more or find ways to be more in touch with it. Go see some movies, things like that. And then lastly, on the 24th, we have the full moon in Virgo. So that will be kind of finishing out the astrological energy for the month of February. That full moon in Virgo it's inviting us to be practical. It's inviting us to make a system. We've done a lot of reviewing going on in the month of February. We've gotten a lot of clarity, hopefully, in the month of February with this energy of Venus and Mars, and of the and this conjunction with the North Node and Chiron. Like we've just probably have had a lot of moments that have shown us information that we needed to know about who we are, what we want to be, what we need to be maybe changing, or what we need to be doing more of. And this full moon in Virgo is going to say, wonderful, I love it. Where's the plan? Where's the system? Where's the plan? Where's the calendar? Where is the, you know, maybe you never made a goals for 2024. Maybe you never set out like a 12-week year or something like that. But you may feel that momentum starting to build up to start to put those things into alignment. Now we're getting some of that Pisces energy. So you will be feeling more dreamy. I would say be very gentle with yourself and maybe not feel like you have to stick to this plan, but do put in the time and effort to really start to kind of look at it more strategic, especially around the things that need to be let go. That is the energy of Virgo. Virgo is that energy of assessing from our harvest what it is we need to keep and what it is we need to leave behind, what it is that we like shifting through before we even put the stuff on the scales when you hit that Libra energy. And we do have a lot of interesting kind of polarity energy starting to come up in the month of March as we move towards the spring equinox, as we move towards these eclipse energies that's coming up in March and in April. And so I think it will be very vital and very important to do some of that assessment work. That is always my keyword for Virgo, is assessment. So that way you're able to kind of tie all these things together and clear out what needs to be cleared out. All right, that's going to be it. And that's all of our astrology for the month of February. I hope that you were able to learn some things, mark some dates down in your calendar. If you'd like to get a private or personal tarot reading, You can check out the link inside of the description if you're interested in coaching and working through some of these aspects of individuation, shadow work, or just figuring out maybe what your next steps are and how to apply them. You can book some time with me, and that information is also in the description. I will see y'all next Saturday for us to talk about this new moon, and then we'll do Venus-Mars conjunction, and then we'll do the full moon in Virgo for the end of the month. So those are the Saturdays, and then you can check out your normal videos throughout the week. I'll see y'all later. Have a great one. Bye.